All right, on today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, after a unsuccessful 3-game road trip, is it time for the Avalanche to switch things up with their lines? We'll get to that. And we know it's only December, but is Cale Makar the early Hart favorite? The Athletic thinks so, and I think two hosts here think so as well. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure you are subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that is in the show notes below. When you do, you become one of our very special insiders. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, and we get your thoughts and opinions on whatever we're discussing with Avalanche Nation, like we will do today. All right, if you're on YouTube, you can see the rundown. We'll get to the Cale Makar talk in a little bit. The Athletic put up something about the favorites for the trophies right now. Cale Makar is their leader right now for the Hart and the Norris. So we'll discuss that in a little bit. If you see that bullet that says, do fans live too much in the present? We'll explain, but it's kind of self-explanatory. We'll kind of explain why we're going to discuss that when we get to it. But where we're going to start, Kyle, is right up at the top, and that is it time to switch up the lines? The Avalanche, didn't do so hot in that 3-game little road trip out west, 2 points, both in overtime. And then, the game against the Kings. So is now the time you're going, you had the day off on Monday, Tuesdays against Anaheim. Is that a good time considering the opponent too? I think maybe you take that into play. I'm not trying to slight Anaheim here. And I know that they just beat you, but it's not like they rolled over you. They needed, an extra frame to do that. You go up against Anaheim and you feel that you really should beat this team. And I know that they're better than last year, but still, you should beat this team. So having said that, is now the time to maybe mess around with the lines when you're going up against a team that you really should beat? Or are you looking at it as no, keep the band together because you haven't, the last 3 games have been unsuccessful, and you got to, keep your core guys together to make sure you just get a win right now. Now's not the time to mess around with that stuff. Where do you stand on this?
Oh, I love this, Chris. I really do. This is a fantastic question, and I honestly, I don't understand why you would. I don't know where you sit on this side of the debate, but you're talking about a team that you should beat. Oh, you mean like Arizona, or you mean like St. Louis? Does 8-2 sound familiar? A team you should beat. So what are we gaining here? Let's be real. We're all adults here. What are we gaining by swapping things up? I've seen the comment, why don't we split up Nate and Mikko? I ask you why. You had an unsuccessful 3-game road trip. Why in the world? And let's all travel back in our beautiful little TARDIS type time machine. And let's remember the last losing streak where the Avalanche looked like they couldn't win a game if they tried. And what good did swapping up the lines then do? Let's ask Tomas Tatar how that works out for him. Let's ask Jonathan Drouin. He has visited every line except on defense. So where do you find success by doing that? Like when the Avalanche were winning games, we were praising line 1. It was line 2 for some fans. That's my favorite line. Line 3, that's my favorite. But don't forget about line 4. It's when things are working, everything is fine as it is. But breaking it up, you say it's a game that you should win. But why are the Avalanche going to make it harder on themselves by swapping everything up and making everybody try and learn new habits with new players?
So sometimes, when you switch up lines, it's for many reasons, right? Sometimes it's just matchup based. If you're going up against a team that's kind of like what you're looking at the matchups. Hey, I like this matchup than this line better, so I'm going to change it. But that's not why we're talking about it right now. Right now, it's like getting things going, and that's another reason why you do it is to if a guy is struggling a little bit, it's not always you move them down. Sometimes you move them up to play with better players to get them going. And it sounds a little bit kind of backwards, but I'm okay with maybe switching up the lines when you're playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because there's going to be some guys on your team that if you're playing well, there's going to be some guys that are not as playing as well as the rest of the team that's like flowing. So you maybe bring Mikko down to the second line to try to infuse what is going well for him into that line. Right now, the top line is struggling a little bit with Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. They're both in a little bit of a goal funk right now. So my question to not to you, I guess to the audience is breaking them up going to benefit them? I don't think so, because they play off each other the best. They give the other guy the best opportunity to score. So I don't really do it right now for that reason, because they will get each other going. Moving them to another line, I don't think we'll get there's a possibility that they could get moving to another line. Somebody on that line could get them going, but who's it going to be? Your second line is struggling as much as the first line. So why move them down to a line that is also struggling? If you were moving, the third line is rolling right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you moving Nathan MacKinnon or Mikko Rantanen down to the third line? Not in a million years. So they just have to fight through. They're better than what they're performing right now in terms of goal scoring. So you just have to see it through. You keep them together. If there was somebody on the second line that was rolling, you move them down there, and maybe whoever's on the second line can infuse them with, whatever, as well as they would be playing. But they're not doing it either.
And you mentioned when things are going well is when you play around with the lines. It's kind of like a reward. Like, hey, you've been hot. Let's see what you do at the top spot. But the Avalanche also have their hands tied when it comes. You're not dropping Nathan MacKinnon to line 2 because that's a headline. You're also not dropping Mikko Rantanen to line 2 or 3 because if you look at the stats, he's where the goals come from. Whether scoring or assisting, the points come from Mikko Rantanen. So why are you rewarding Nathan MacKinnon for his bad behavior and bad effort, keeping him on the top line and saying, thanks for everything, Mikko, but we're putting you down here? Who are you putting up there? Who gets the reward for going to the top line? And
Logan O'Connor, which he's played on the top line before.
The only players that need to be rewarded from this trip to California would be the defense, because that's where you got your scoring against Anaheim and Los Angeles. And guess what? They're not forwards. They're not supposed to be getting your scoring. All 4 lines did not work at all on that trip. So nobody gets rewarded. Nobody gets up. Nobody gets down. Everybody stays where you are. And you sit there and you say, do your job.
Yeah. Mikko has gone down to the second line. There has been times where that has happened, but they've been a much healthier team when that's happened. Gabe Landeskog is there. Look at what the loss of Arturi Lehkonen is doing.
Oh,
this makes it a struggle. If you got him in there, you can get a little bit more creative right now. Over on subtext, this is coming from Vargar. I believe this is from Vargar. Yeah, this is what he would try. This is getting a little wacky here. Nichushkin, Colton, and Mikko on the top line.
Sign me up.
Wood, MacKinnon, and LOC on the second line. Drouin, Johansson, and Cogliano on the third line. Kiviranta, Olofsson, and Tufte on the fourth line. So he's getting rid of. Oh no, he's got Cogliano there. I'm sorry. I'm not making Colton my top line center. that is Nathan MacKinnon's until he retires. Like you are not paying Nathan MacKinnon $12.6 million to be your second line center.
That's
if you want to do that for a game. If you want to try it for a game, if you want to try it for a period, go ahead. Don't get used to that. I'm okay with some of those things that he threw in there and some wrinkles and stuff like that. And I know he's not the biggest Nathan MacKinnon fan, so maybe that's why he threw him down there. But Nathan MacKinnon is not going to be a second line center in this league or any other.
If everyone was paid the exact same amount of money, this would be the ideal, perfect line. Like, just thinking of the synergy between those lines and what those lines could work off. I love that roster construction. But again, it's like I mentioned, it's one of the problems the Avalanche have. You're really stuck with Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen on that top line while things are not working, because it's who are you putting with them to get them going?
Right. Because who you're putting them with is not going themselves.
No.
So that's why if you had Lehkonen down there, if Landeskog was here and Lehkonen was on the second line, you can move that. Like, you have more options right now. You do, maybe he does it. He might do it for, and we've seen Jared Bednar do this. He'll do it for a period or a couple shifts, but for the course of a game, I don't think you're going to have Mikko Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon separated for an extended amount of time. Easton says, I think you have to break up Mac and Mikko. They seem just to be coasting. Give them the responsibility of being the best player on lines 1 and 2. Our second line has less points than the Sharks' second line does. Wow. If that's true, which I have no reason to believe he's lying to me, that's brutal. I think moving Tatar to line 1 with Nuke and MacKinnon would help, and then letting Drouin dishing to Raijo and Mikko could get some more assists rolling. He gives a prediction for the Ducks, by the way, which is 5-2 in favor of the Avs. He thinks we bury him. Yeah, I get that thinking. I break them up to try to get them going, but it kind of goes back to what kind of I've been saying. Like, I'm not comfortable putting them with anybody else right now, because everybody else is, at least over the course of the last couple games, because Ryan Johansson before this East Coast trip was doing okay, and he seemed to go into it. So all these guys just seem to go into a just a little bit of funk right now on this trip. And should we be panicking and overreacting right now and wanting to break up the lines, or just saying, like, we just went on a really good run, and if it wasn't for that Nashville game, would have had an 8-game winning streak? Or should we panic and just switch up the lines? Or should we just have faith that, guys like Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen can figure this out because they've been playing long enough, and give them the opportunity to do that, maybe just a few more games?
If you can't get Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen to score a goal together, what in the world do you think you're going to get Mikko Rantanen and Ryan Johansson to create some kind of magic? Like, Super Mario and Jaromir Jagr figured it out. Like, why can't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, those are your guns. So you stick to, again, I'm not against maybe just here and there, maybe, double shifting one of them so they play with the second line. We'll see. This is the stuff that I love talking about. Though. I got it, and I'm not like, coming down on Vargar and Houston, because I get that thinking.
Yeah.
So it's this is why coaches get paid the big money, and then when they're wrong, they get fired. But
nobody's wrong.
We're not firing Jared Bednar, by the way. Just please.
Yeah.
That was a joke, people. Come on.
Nobody's wrong, because the Avalanche haven't won a game since November. So,
oh God, we're there. All right. So, having said that, we focused a lot on the forwards right now. Let's talk about the defense and one player in particular, and that is Bowen Byram. It's been exciting, a career so far for Byram with the Avs. But are things starting to turn for him in the eye of public opinion, and that public opinion being Avalanche fans? We're going to discuss that. Sorry, get a hair out of my mouth. We'll discuss that coming up next. But first, Indeed. And when you are drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, then you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. And if you hate waiting, Indeed's US data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job description the moment that they sponsor a job. And Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. So visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. That's Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application price not available for everyone. And if you need to hire, you need Indeed. All right, let's jump over to the defensive side, specifically Bo Byram, because like I said before the break, it's been a roller coaster of a ride for Bo Byram for his entire career with the Avs. He had some really, really good moments, especially in that Cup run. I think he had the most minutes played in the Stanley Cup final against Tampa, or average minutes on the defensive end anyway. And there's been some growing pains and there's been injuries. It's almost like he's had a full career in just these few years, right? So with this year, started off slow, and I'm completely fine with that. Players start off a season slow, and it seemed like he broke out of it recently within the last few weeks. And then now what's happening as of more recent is penalties, and he's just every type of penalty you can think of, he's committing them. And you're seeing online what we've seen over the past few years with Sam Girard. And now that Sammy G is not with the team right now, obviously we talked about that last week, a couple weeks ago. It seems.
Oh, I think you just froze. And you know what? While you're holding on that thought, it goes back. You mentioned Sam Girard. It's like Bo Byram. There you're back. But
right.
it's Bo Byram, Sam Girard,
Yeah,
EJ, Nikita Zadorov. Like,
well,
they center on one player, and everything that goes wrong is this defenseman right here. This is the problem. When you get rid of him, this team will be fine.
Right.
Where's
Why do we do that?
Yes.
You know, like, so what, like, before Arnold Schwarzenegger came in and froze me, that's where I was going with it. Like, have that subset of Avalanche fans that were just on Sam Girard beyond if he made a bad play? It's just, just everything the guy does is horrible. That seems to have now shifted over to Bo Byram. Unfairly, if you ask me. Why do we do this? What exactly what you just said is 100% true. If we don't play this guy or we get rid of this guy, all our problems are solved. If Gabe Landeskog was here, all our problems are solved. It doesn't work that way. Like, so why do we do that with Bo Byram specifically? He seemed, we always have the title of like whipping boy, and it seems like he is that guy right now. If you want to get, have the discussion on a specific play here or there where, he messed up, or he even had a bad game, or he had a bad period, we can have that conversation. But people are now taking it to that Sam Girard level of trade deadline is in a couple months and Bo Byram's on the block. And it's like, should we be talking about, like, I don't know, like, it just kind of really just irks me sometimes when we just go to these extremes in the fandom.
You know what also really just makes me smile, like the Grinch smile, like where it just keeps on going, and like his eyebrows even kind of go into that smile.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we going after Bo Byram and Jack Johnson is in the lineup every single night?
I'll say, you know what, man, like, I get I think Jack Johnson's been okay this year. I think he's been just fine.
And
I get what you're saying. I still don't think he fits on this team, but I'm not getting mad at him every night.
Well,
say that.
That's the thing. What do you want for your Avalanche players? Do you want them to be noticeable, both positive and negative?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's Bo Byram. Do you want Jack Johnson? I just said his name, and I think that's the first time his name has been uttered on this podcast in at least a month.
It's been a while. Yeah.
So, do you want to be invisible? Do you want your players to be invisible? Like Jack Johnson has 4 points. Bo has 8.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with the 2 goals that he scored against Anaheim. So,
But why do we okay, he's committed penalty. Obviously, we don't want that. You don't want that. But why is the answer he stinks and get rid of him? Why isn't the answer he's the fourth overall draft pick and he's what, 22 years old? He's still learning, he's still growing, and he's a talent. The ceiling is through the roof. So we just give up on guys so quickly. There's always got to be that one guy that we don't want around. For some reason right now, it's Bowen Byram because he committed some stupid penalties. I don't go to that extreme when the guy, like, yeah, I don't want him to commit those penalties. I don't want, you got to be a little bit more cautious. A lot of them were delay of games, which are just, I get all that. But again, like, and this goes to the question I have up on the screen is like, do we live too much in the present when it comes to sports? And because when things are going well for the Avalanche, and even just actually, you can just say when things are going well for Phil team here, everything is fine. The minute they lose a game, it's, everybody wants to come down on them. And I always do this with sports. I always take a bird's eye view and take things in totality as far as the season goes. We can talk about how the Avalanche had a really bad road trip, but it's just that road trip. That's it. It doesn't go beyond that. And we're not going to give this team more a chance to come back and atone for those losses and play better than those losses. They don't deserve that. Are we just going to go to they're terrible and that 3-game road trip sums up what this team is? You haven't been watching this team and you haven't been watching sports long if you really feel that way.
You know what? Let's take your eagle eye view at the world of sports. Let's talk about Colorado Buffaloes.
I have that in my notes, dude.
Yeah.
I have it in my notes. Just bring
you
that
know what?
up.
We should do a podcast together. We share the same mind. No, you start out the season
1,000%.
Hey, Denver Broncos. It was a pathetic start to the season. You win 5 in a row. You lose a game. Everything. We're back to terrible. Denver Nuggets. You've been kind of the laughingstock since forever. You win a title, and now you're the best team ever. Look at the Avalanche. If you became a fan in 2016, 2017, this season that you're watching right now, this is nice. This is something you can work with. 2016, 2017, 17, 18, those are some rough years.
Mm-hmm.
Some really sparse talent. Need I remind you of the Borks, the non-related Borks?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to just write it out. And we could go back to the St. Louis Blues where dead last and Christmas. Like, come on.
That was an anomaly. I mean, great run, but that doesn't happen. Right.
It's the world of sports. Write it out. We're in December, for goodness sake.
Right.
Like,
I mean, if you just went to X or Instagram or what's the other one? The Threads that they have.
Threads.
And you just went through and looked at like some comments, and I didn't show you where the Colorado Avalanche were in the standings, you would think that they were dead last. And they are in first place in their division still. Sure, Dallas has a game in hand, but I'm just going on points. We are just catastrophizing losses and catastrophizing a little bit of a bad stretch. This is an 82-game season, people. 82 games. You are going to have ebbs and flows in a season. And good Lord, like we've seen it so many times, especially if you want to keep it with the Avalanche, we'll keep it on the Avalanche. They do this all the time. And this is a better start to the season that they had the year that they won the Cup. And we're making it out to be like, oh, they had a bad 3-game stretch in California and Arizona. Sell the team. And I know it's a small subset, but they're louder than the rest of the people who kind of just go along with the flow and watch the games and take it in totality. If we want to, if the worst thing happens to the Avalanche this year at the end of the season is that they miss the playoffs, you know what kind of episodes we're going to have. because that is not meeting expectations at all. And then we can have that conversation. Why are we having that conversation on December 4th when we're recording this episode? Why?
Just a couple weeks removed from beating our chest after the Dallas game and saying this is how you're supposed to look. The Calgary game, you're like, oh, that was a sloppy but good effort. But this team is good. The Avs have finally figured it out, and now we're ready to sell them back to Quebec. Come on.
Yeah, in just under a week that all happened. It happens. You can have a 10-game winning streak and then you lose to Chicago. It can happen. It doesn't mean you've lost the mojo. It's just, I always say this, the other team is trying to.
Yeah.
You can't look at it through blinders and just in one-sided. You can't.
Remember when we used to laugh at the Sharks? Now look at them.
Yeah, they're on a roll right now. Like, and again, that's the flip side of it. You really think that's going to continue? No, but they're trying. They're not like those guys got to earn a paycheck too. And they're also playing for their next paycheck, which might not be with San Jose. So I mean, I know that the people out there, they're loud. They have their opinion. If you want your opinion, that's fine. I don't agree with it. I know you don't agree with it. And I think most Avalanche fans wouldn't agree with it. But to go down the road of some of the things that I read and then are sent to our show account are just like, man, like slow down. We can have what you're talking about specifically later on if it comes true. Hasn't come true yet. Came true for 2 or 3 games in an 82-game season.
I've been here since they adopted the logo, and I've seen it all. Just be patient.
Right. All right. And one of the reasons why we shouldn't be, going to these extremes is because of one, Mr. Cale Makar. The Athletic came out with a kind of keep track of who they think is leading for a lot of the awards. Cale Makar's up there for a couple of them. We'll talk about that coming up next. Right now, we're going to talk about Game Time and the Game Time app. And you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, because Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Some of the things that we love about the Game Time experience are those last-minute flash deals, and they have zone deals as well. The view from your seats is something that we talk about all the time when we were mentioning Game Time. The way they integrate it into the app is seamless and it's perfect. Cannot beat it. So Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even out an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last minute deals. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On NHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So Mr. Cale Makar was the second star of the month in November. I'm not going to go down the road of arguing that I feel like he should have been the first star, which went to Nikita Kucherov. Had an excellent month, obviously. That's a debate for another time. But say second for the month, nothing to sneeze at. And right now, the Athletic and Dom Lachuskin, who has all of these crazy formulas that he puts out for ranking teams and ranking players. It's just, the guy's like a mathematical genius when it comes to hockey and stats. He put up, I think it's the first one of the year, and they're going to be coming out. I don't know if it's every month or every week or however he's going to do it. Kind of where the numbers put players in terms of awards. And he's got Cale Makar at the top of the Norris and the Hart. And just as a little aside here, not only does he have Cale Makar as number 1 for the Norris and the Hart, he has Quinn Hughes as number 2 for the Norris and the Hart. And I get that, like for the Norris, that's fine, but for the Hart, you have to love. I don't think Quinn Hughes is going to be there. He's having a great year. Yeah. This is how we're talking about last segment, Kyle. Let's wait. Let's see how everything plays out, because can Quinn Hughes keep that up for a full season? Remains to be seen. I get why you want to put him up there right now, but we'll see how things are in April. But for right now, yes, he's up there. And I just love seeing 2 defensemen at the top of the Hart list, because for whatever reason, defensemen just seem to be like forwards are like, quarterbacks when for MVPs. Forwards have just taken this thing forever, and defensemen, it's almost like, well, they have their own award, so we don't really lump them into Hart discussion. So having two of them in the Hart discussion right now just kind of really makes me smile.
And I love that this conversation is coming out now. Cale Makar, he's on pace for historical season. But where is Cale Makar right now? He's day to day.
He's hurt.
So if you would like the Hart, what was the last time an Avalanche member was in the running for the Hart? That'd be Nathan McKinnon. And what was the thing holding him back from winning that Hart Trophy?
Which year? Which year are you talking about? Because there was a couple of them.
And both stretches, it was because he was injured. If he would have had a full season or more time logged, it would have been his running away. I have a feeling, depending on how this day-to-day thing works and how much more time down the road we're going to be missing Mr. Number 8, the next great 8. He has to stay on the ice. Like, if I know we could talk projections and historic and how incredible he is, but you have to be on the ice. And like, this is the time where you need to start doing it to get this. Like, yes, this article coming out and putting him at number 1 is great, but right now you can watch Quinn Hughes do that, and you can't watch Cale Makar do that. And then you're watching your team losing 3 in a row.
Right.
If you want to be Hart, you gotta be in the game.
Oh, absolutely. If you're missing significant time, then but the thing is, last year Makar missed a good chunk of games and was still finalist for the Norris.
Yeah.
So which was surprising when they announced the final 3. That was surprising that he was in there. Hart's a different animal. Hart is you got to have all of those things lined up to be the league MVP. And we didn't think Makar was going to win the Norris last year. I think it was just a miracle that he was. And I think if he played a full season, maybe missed a few games here and there, very likely could have won it again. And I really think the games played really, prevented that from happening. But for the Hart, you got to have everything perfect because you're league MVP.
Especially for a defenseman.
It's crazy. It's crazy that they just don't get the notoriety for the Hart. But this is kind of like a new kind of genre of defensemen right now. Like, we've seen it over the last 10 years. And I think you're going to see it happening more often now, especially with Cale Makar having another at least 10 years of his career, probably longer. He's going to be in the mix for a long time. If he doesn't win it this year, we'll figure that out at the end. But I think, he's got to win one before his career. I think he's definitely going to win one. And it's just crazy. Chris Pronger, 28 years ago, was the last defenseman to win it. And this part I didn't know. Like, I knew he was the last one to win it, but I didn't know that since then there hasn't even been a defenseman nominated for one. Hasn't even been a defenseman in the mix for the final 3. That is it's horrible. That's horrible.
Well, you did the 2010s where you had to have your Zdeno Charas, your Nikita Zadorovs, like your big, tall, lumbering, like the way you play defense changed. And then it kind of went to that hybrid Tyson Berry type format where you had to be short and squatty. And then now Cale Makar is setting the standard on how you have defense. But Quinn, like, we could say what you want, but Quinn Hughes is doing the same. Like, you look at Bowen Byram. If he puts all the tools together, he could be following suit in this new style of defenseman that could play the game with hockey IQ and score like a forward.
Yeah.
They're setting the standard, and Cale Makar will be the first to win the Hart as a defenseman, but he's not going to be the last.
No. As far as the rating goes, like, he gives them a rating. Makar's rating is 8.1. Quinn Hughes, like I said, is at number 2. He's at 6.9. So it's not even really that close right now. He's got Makar way up. And then with the Norris, he's got Makar obviously at the top for the Norris. For the Norris, he's got him same thing, 8.1 to 6.9. And for the other ones, just quickly, for the Selke, Nichushkin's in there at number 8. I don't think Nichushkin will ever win it, but he'll get some votes. He's an excellent defensive forward. So he's up there. At least he's in the top 10. That's good to see. Interestingly enough, for the Calder, nobody's on the Avalanche going to win the Calder. They got Brock Faber at number 1. Connor Bedard, they have all the way down at number 9 right now. Interesting. Interesting.
We almost days since Connor Bedard mentioned 0.
Yeah. And then for the Art Ross, Nathan McKinnon is at number 3. Mikko Rantanen is number 7. And the Rocket Richard Trophy, Mikko Rantanen is at number 3 for that. So, which you expect those guys to be up there. You know, all 3 of those guys to be kind of in the mix for specific trophies. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll keep an eye on that as the season goes on and see what who wins these awards, how they match up with the Athletics predictions, and kind of keeping track of it as the season goes along. So we're for that. I will admit my bias. I'm not really, I feel like we kind of toe the line if the Avalanche do well. We just said it with Makar. Like, we didn't think he was going to win the Norris last year. I didn't even think he was going to be nominated. But for this year, I will be 100% biased because I want to see it.
Yep.
I want to see a defenseman win it, and I want it to be our guy in Cale Makar because we say it all the time, he's transcendent.
And watch him win one before Nate.
Right? Crazy. I've said it before. I think McKinnon's window has closed for it just because, not because he can't do it, but I think the ship has sailed, and now you have all these newbies coming in that are kind of taking the reins, and I think the shine is worn off of Nathan McKinnon as far as the Hart goes. But you never know. I would absolutely root for it. Absolutely root for it. We'll see. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We will be back tomorrow to discuss this game. Can the Avs get back at the Anaheim Ducks? So all that and whatever. Oh, we'll probably also talk about the salary cap. We kind of found out that the cap is going to go up by how much? A little over $4 million. What that means for the Avs. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. For today, that is going to wrap it up. So thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Definitely always appreciated. So he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.